Well, Happy New Year, everybody. For our Thursday devotionals for 2021, we're going to kick off a series of devotionals that we're calling hashtag MyVerse21. Hashtag MyVerse21. If you remember in the past, we did a sermon series called My Verse, and the pastors took verses that were people's favorites and we preached messages on them because they were our favorite verses. Well, for these devotional series, you're going to hear from the pastors and you're going to hear from other people in the church as well, sharing with you some of their favorite verses and why. I get to kick us off, and I want to share with you my verse. And my verse comes from Luke chapter 22. And it's not a verse that many people tend to memorize. It's not a verse that you often see in greeting cards. But it's a prayer from Jesus to Peter. And in Luke 22, here's how Jesus prays. He says, "Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers." I chose this as my verse 21 because it's actually a prayer that I've found myself praying a lot last year in 2020. And it's a prayer I continue to find myself praying. Whenever people ask me to pray for them, when they're going through sickness or suffering or some kind of trial, I find myself praying, "May your faith not fail." I want to give you some context to this prayer. Peter is about to deny Jesus and abandon Jesus 3 times. You probably know that story. And Satan is really going to test Peter. He's gonna fill Peter's mind with doubt. He's gonna surround Peter with fear. He's gonna cause Peter to experience deep sorrow and regret for denying Jesus. In other words, Jesus says to him, Satan is going to sift you. Satan is going to test your faith. You know, the process of sifting is when you take a sieve and you take material like wheat or flour and you put it through that sieve or that filter, and it separates the particles from that which is most important. So it's really a purifying and refining process to separate the good from the bad. And when Jesus says, Peter, Satan's going to sift you, really what he's saying is Satan's going to test your faith to see if it's good or bad, if it's real or fake. But he says to Peter, he says, "But I've prayed for you, that your faith may not fail." Not just that his faith would be proven, but that his faith would also be strengthened through the process. One thing I love about this verse is it reminds us that sifting comes from Satan. God is not the author of our suffering. That's not his strategy for us to strengthen our faith. Though God may allow us to go through it because he knows it'll strengthen our faith, he is not the author of our suffering. And so Jesus prays for Peter that through the toughest test, through the sifting sieve, his faith would not fail. But the best part of this verse that I love is how Jesus ends that prayer that he says he prays for Peter. He says, "And when your faith is strengthened, I pray that you would strengthen your brothers." Meaning that Jesus sees that there's a minister being made in Peter. He's making a minister out of you. Because when you go through this test, your test will become your testimony. And the Lord is going to use him to encourage and to be an example, a model for his fellow brothers who will also struggle. So this is my verse for 21, because I anticipate in this coming year I'm gonna do a lot of praying for myself, but also for many of you who will come asking for prayer. And when I pray for you, I can't promise that COVID will go away, and I can't promise you prosperity, and I can't promise you that there's not going to be any sickness or any death, and I can't promise immunity from heartbreak, and I can't promise job security, but I can pray. And when I do pray, don't be surprised if you hear me praying for your faith not to fail, that through the sifting, your faith would not only be proven, but that your faith would be strengthened. That's how I'm going to pray for many of you this year. And I can pray that as God ministers to you, that he will be making a minister out of you, so that your test will become a testimony, and that the mess you find yourself in will one day become a message for other people. And so that is my verse for 21. This is how I look forward to going through this year with you. And I hope that I can continue to pray for you. I pray that you'll continue to ask me to pray for you. And I pray that you'll continue to pray for me. And once again, when I do pray for you, don't be surprised when I pray that your faith would not fail. Why? Well, because this is my verse, 21.